My wife threw a party and there are flowers all over the house, which is great, unless you're a family that has allergies. Hey everybody, it's week 2 and this is your weekly debrief for CIT 12. What can I say? Week 2 is our first normal week. This is going to be a week where you can kind of get a sense of the pace for the class. So hopefully you can find time this week to sort of get into a regular rhythm. You'll kind of know like, oh yeah, Tuesdays are the days I do my labs, and then I kind of get to the discussions on Wednesday mornings, whatever your system is. Hopefully you find a good rhythm this week to get into the flow of things for the class in general. Because this week is going to have all the elements that we would normally have in a week. So we'll start by talking about the reading. The reading for this week is Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is all about how technology is changing things. There is a lecture video in the Week 2 folder where I talk a lot about change and how technology is changing things. Our discussion this week is going to center around that, and hopefully in a practical way. Because I don't think it's really... I dislike those sort of technology classes where it's like, oh, things are changing so fast, you got to keep up. Technology, it's changing things. Like, clearly, anything that changes stuff. That's not very profound to say. The real question is, how is it changing things? What is it changing? What is it not changing? And how is it changing those things? That's where the actual value comes in. Not just saying, oh, look, we use MP3s instead of CD players. Isn't that crazy? That's useless. Anyway, read Chapter 1, take a look at how things are changing, watch the video. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. After you're done with the reading, there's a quiz on Chapter 1. So be sure to do that. You'll find it right there in the Week 2 folder. Just click on the quiz link. It'll take you straight into it, and you can take the quiz for Chapter 1. Remember, you can take it as many times as you want until you get the grade that you like, until it eventually disappears. So anyway, quiz, Chapter 1. And then our discussion for this week is navigating the modern economy. Now, the idea is that as technology changes, it makes some skills more valuable and some skills less valuable. Sometimes in my face-to-face courses, I show this video of the Porsche factory. And you see all of these robots, and they're grabbing these vehicles and they're spinning them around like they were weightless. And all these arms are coming in and welding bits here and there. And the fact is, robots and technology have made the job of welding less valuable. Now, welders still make a lot of money, but there's just fewer jobs available. Now, at the same time, that exact same video, when they start talking about the interiors, they talk about their hand-stitched leather interiors. The reason is that we have no robots that can handle leather. Robots can do great at welding, but not so good with leather. And so that's something that still needs a human hand. That decision is completely arbitrary, right? So at some point, technology came in, it made one set of skills more valuable, one set less valuable. Actually, I guess it just kept one skill the same. The idea is that I don't want you to study here in college something that in the future will be less valuable. And we do see examples of that. There are people, some of the old careers that were sort of easier to get into, like let's say medical encoding, right? This is where people would take a look at medical bills and they would look at the services that were rendered and they would code them for insurance purposes based on the type of service it was. And insurance companies hired armies of these people. Well, now, as computers have made their way into hospitals and as computerized charting and billing has made its way into, regular doctor's offices, a lot of that stuff is becoming automated. And we don't need people to sort of hand look at services rendered and then, write in a code on paper. That's just not the way it's going to be done in 10 years. And so I don't want you to waste your time doing something that will become less valuable as time goes on. Anyway, that being said, there's a couple resources that I've got linked in the Week 2 folder that I'd like you to check out this week and sort of do some research, some career research. First about your major, your college major, and then the second about the job that you eventually want to get. So if you're saying, oh, I want to major in nursing and I want to become a nurse, well, that's a fairly easy connection. And you can check out those numbers to see how much you're likely to make? What are the job prospects in 10 years for nurses as compared to, let's say, graphic designers or computer programmers or social workers, right? Whatever it is you want to do, I just want you to have that information ahead of time. So anyway, so that's the point, that's the discussion for this week. Taking a look at your career choices, seeing what the value of a particular college degree or a particular major is, so that you can make an informed decision as you pursue your career. That's the discussion for this week. Hopefully you find it interesting, and hopefully you have some fairly good discussion in the forums this week. Next, lastly, My IT Lab. So, read the chapter, take a look at the lecture video, do your quiz, take a look at the 2 resources, write your discussion posts, respond to somebody else, because that's a part of your grade. And then lastly, My IT Lab is on Office Fundamentals. Now, I made that lab available to you last week, even though it's actually a lab for this week. It wasn't assigned last week. Your only assignment for My IT Lab last week was just setting up your account. But some of you have already gone in and done it, and you're already done with it. So if that's the case, then you don't have a lab this week. It's already done with and you are good to go. But if you haven't, or if you just want to retake it to get a better score, which you can do as many times as you like until it disappears, Office Fundamentals, that's the lab for this week. It's fairly quick. It's actually just like little snippets of some of the other labs you're going to see, but it covers some of the basics of, you know, it actually covers all 3 programs that we're going to cover, and just some basics is how do you start a new document in Word, or how do you just get started essentially. So Office Fundamentals, that's the lab for this week, and then we start Word next week. So that's it. That's week 2. Read the chapter, take a look at the lecture video, do the quiz, take a look at those 2 resources, do the discussion. By the way, there's a video in the week 2 folder showing you how to use those 2 resources so that you're not lost. And then My IT Lab, make sure you get in there and get a score in for that first lab. All right. Now, I've had some questions from people, one of which is actually a fairly common troubleshooting issue. Some people have said, you know, I click on the lab and nothing happens, or I click on the textbook and nothing happens. The most common problem for this, or the most common reason for this, is pop-up blocking. So browsers are set to, often automatically set to block pop-ups, because a lot of times advertisers will sneakily pop up ads in front of the content you're trying to get to when you visit a website. It's kind of an old school thing that has just sort of stuck around. There's ways of circumventing it. Even if you have a pop-up blocker turned on, you may see pop-ups every once in a while. All of that being said, My IT Lab doesn't circumvent it. So if your browser is set to not block pop-ups, it won't. You'll click on the link and nothing will happen. Actually, almost nothing will happen. If you look at your address bar, which is the place where you would type in www.google.com or wherever it is you want to go, all the way to the right, you'll notice a little icon. It'll look like a little blue square, which is meant to represent a window with like a red X in it. Well, that's the icon for Google Chrome, which is the browser that we most often recommend for students, but your icon will be something similar to that. If you click on that, you'll see some options. That's the little icon to say, hey, I've just blocked a pop-up for you. If you click on it, just choose the option that sounds most like always allow pop-ups from this website. Right? If you choose that, then you won't have this problem anymore. It'll put an exception in your browser. Your browser will essentially know, hey, when you're on My IT Lab, you just want to go ahead and allow pop-ups, which is what you want, because all of the labs, they all pop up in another window, so that you can kind of access the old window if you need it. All right? So that's a very common question. If you have any other issues with My IT Lab, something's just kind of going a little squirrely, I'm actually really surprised at the few number of problems I've gotten so far from people talking about My IT Lab, but that's good. Hopefully systems get more stable as they go along. If you're having any issues, check out that link with the browser tune-up. Install that. It's actually a really easy way to go. Then you just double click on this icon in your desktop and you'll just instantly be taken to My IT Lab. All right, so that's week 2. Hopefully you find it valuable. students often say that this is one of the better discussions just because it really gets them thinking about their careers, their education, where they're going. And again, and I'll mention this in the video when I'm talking about using the 2 resources. I'm not saying you shouldn't choose to be a social worker. I'm not saying that you shouldn't choose to be a teacher, because quite frankly, when you see the income numbers there, you can pretty much do anything other than teaching and make more money. We need good teachers. We need good social workers, right? Our society depends on those roles, and unfortunately, we don't necessarily reward that enough. And so I'm not saying don't choose that. I'm just saying I don't want you to be surprised after you finished a college degree, once you've gone in, and then wait, really, is this where I compare? You know, maybe I should have done something else. If you know what you're sort of sacrificing going into a career, you may still choose to do it, and that would be great because you feel passionate about it. You know, that idea that, you know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. If you love teaching, then do it. Even if you could make more money as a computer programmer or, God forbid, a petroleum engineer, which is like they just hand you buckets of cash, right? Even with that, we still need good teachers. So pay attention to that as you're doing your discussion this week. All right, that's it. Have a great week, and I will see you online.